So it's like if I'm teaching somebody to sell, it's like, dude, I need you to get 100 no's. All right, just get 100 no's for me. I don't care about the yes, just get 100 no's. And the thing is all of a sudden, if the no becomes the goal, then they realize that it's about the process and not the outcome, and then they will become better salespeople because they stop being afraid of it. The same thing like if we're training a salesperson, I want them to hear the gasp, right? Which is like you say a price over the phone. Everyone's afraid of saying the price. And it's like, dude, if you didn't get a gasp, you didn't go high enough.
Right.
And they're like, what? I'm like, oh, you failed. Terrible sale. They didn't gasp. They're like, really? And so then it flips it and it becomes a point of pride. It's like, oh, I got her, you should hear the gasp on this one. And so all of a sudden they stop being afraid. We normalize, we do like exposure therapy on the things that people are most afraid of. And I hope that with all the stuff that we do, that we can do that in a microwave for at least a handful of people. So they just start doing and realize that they're going to gain perspective and the light of their knowledge will give them the next foot. But the thing is they're stuck on the first one trying to pick the first path when they have no idea what they're doing.
Was selling ever hard for you? Like the idea of selling, not that I'm sure you were bad at it at one point, but was the idea of trying to convince somebody to buy something?
Yeah, so when I quit my job, my dad's buddy was in private wealth management in Merrill Lynch. And so he called me up and was like, hey, you should sell for me. And I, to this day, and he jokes about it now with me, I said, oh, sales? I was like, I'm not a salesman. I was like, I'm an academic. You know what I mean? I just come from, on the bills, and I thought whatever. And then lo and behold, I signed my lease, I slept on the floor, and I was like, how do I pay rent? And a woman walks in the door, and I was like, I need to get her to give me money so I can pay rent. And I was like, oh, this is sales. And I didn't know. So for me, it was just begging people to give me money in the beginning. I was like, I promise I'm gonna give you the best results ever. But the idea of sales was I thought it was beneath me. I thought it was scammy. I thought it was used car sales, just like the abhorrent, that'd be the right word. But and then through exposure, I realized that it was, and I ended up, in life's irony, being something that I've really fallen in love with.
There are people on the internet, I will let them remain nameless, that they give me the heebie-jeebies. Mm-hmm. I am deeply uncomfortable with something in the way that they sell. And I've actually never taken the time to figure out what it is, and I probably should, I'd make a lot more money. But there are people that make me deeply uncomfortable. And then there's something about you. So I'd never heard of you. Somebody pinged me and was like, yo, you need to check this guy out. Yeah. And I looked at your stuff and I'm like, there's something about the way that you talk that is super matter of fact. It isn't the I have nothing to sell you, because you're an incredible salesperson. So even when I interface with the way that you sell, it doesn't creep me out. I've not thought about it enough to know why, but I bet you have. What is it that makes a salesperson creepy, and why aren't you creepy?
Why aren't you creepy? The best interview question I've ever had. So I think a lot about this because I'm outlining the next book, so the next book is Leads, and I'm already done the draft, and you know how that is, where I'm like, I'm not done that book, but like I'm like, I can't wait for the next book. And so I'm thinking through like what is it that sales is overall, right? It's structuring a conversation to increase the likelihood that the person who's on the other side gives you money. That's what it is. It's structuring that conversation that way. And
structuring that conversation. I heard you mention something that you call, and I am so only vaguely aware of like proper sales. But you said holding the frame. Oh yeah, 100%. Like it's not about the words you say, it's how you say them and whether you can hold the frame. Yeah. Is that what you mean by structure of the call?
All of it, yes. I mean,
so what is the structure? What is holding the frame? Like what does that mean?
So I love sales. So when two people interact in general, no matter what, man, woman, child, whatever, two frames collide. And I believe it's animalistic, whatever it is. There's a decision of who is alpha. Now, the alpha is also contextual. And so you can be alpha in, like the President of the United States is alpha everywhere until he goes into a doctor's office, he tells him to pull his ass and he sticks his finger out, right? Frame, right? In that room, doctor is king, right? He is the alpha in that setting, in that context. And so the ability to hold the frame for most salespeople is really having it sounds crazy, having a clear agenda and controlling the conversation, which is, why are we here, right? Because a lot of sales is clear communication. Because if you clearly communicate, because the biggest advantage that a salesman has is that the person has already said they have a problem most times, right? So if someone responds to a content piece and says, hey, can you help me? They've already enunciated they have an issue, they have a problem. And so you already have the inherent advantage of the frame, which is, you said you needed help, I'm here. How can I help you, right? And so it starts with that, right? It's being clear about why we're here. And then we get agreement that we understood the problem that they said they had next. And then from that point, we have to turn the desire into a decision, which is, okay, you say you want these things, here's the frame that I want to give you to analyze the decision. Can we agree to this frame, right? And so, for example, if I were selling marketing services, and so whenever we rework a sales script with any of the portfolio companies, which is one of the things that we do to make them grow, a lot of times they have all this gobbledygook, right? And so I like the shortest possible scripts we can, because a lot of communication is wasted, right? So what happens a lot of times on a sales call is they say hello, build rapport, talk for 30 minutes, see that there's time that's running out, and then realize they have to pitch, right? And so then they motor mouth and then just awkwardly ask, right? And it is, to your point about it seeming icky, right, or sucking, is that it's not normal human communication, and you're not providing value to the other person. And so if giving clarity to someone on a decision is tremendous value. And so if you can sell in a way that clarifies a decision, my objective always, when I teach sales, the goal is not to get the person to buy. The goal is to get the person to decide. And I believe that people don't decide for only 3 reasons. And this comes from Albert Ellis, this is not me. But people blame all the woes of their lives on circumstances, other people, and then ultimately themselves. And so when we're overcoming obstacles in a sale, we have to make sure that we are accounting for the circumstances, which is taking away time as a reason they can't do it, taking away money as a reason they can't do it, taking away particular aspects of the product as a reason they can't do it. We have to make sure that they don't cast their power to other people and saying, I can't make this decision, someone else has to make it. And then finally, when they're with themselves, they want to avoid the decision. They want to delay it. They want to not make it. I'm not going to think about it, right? And so the idea is that I believe that if you sell properly, you can talk to an empowered person, and you have to basically sift through the crap that they're telling themselves about why they can't decide, why they have to talk to their husband, why the circumstance of their situation matter. And so I think that if you can do that and you communicate that in a conversation, you have made someone feel powerful, and you've given them the tools to make a decision. And then in making that decision, they take a step towards the life they want to have. And so if you can structure a conversation that way, it's not icky, it's value additive, and then ultimately you do make more money, but you're not focused on that because you're focused on helping them make the call. And if we can do that, you can sell whatever you want. And I think that's what I try and structure, and that's why I'm so excited for the sales book when it finally comes out. But most of it's clear communication. When I listen to sales calls, because I still kind of do it because I like it, it's like therapeutic, you know what I mean? There's so much waste. People aren't direct. It's like, why are we here? And someone's like, I just want to get more information. That's an obstacle. No, you didn't. You're not here because you want more information. You're here because you're suffering from a problem. You don't just hop on sales calls all day to get information. No, you're trying to solve something, right? What are you trying to solve? What are you in pain from? Got it. So let me make sure I understand this. Label the problem, right? So it's like a lot of people just don't know how to talk, and they just make face noise at each other, and no one's listening and no one's talking. They ping pong back and forth. No one actually is listening. Noise. Yeah, they're not communicating at all, right? They say a statement. I mean, someone says, I literally just reviewed a sales call yesterday. Guy says, I'm not sure now's a good time. Salesman then responds with, well, you know, I'm not sure if you're a good fit if you're not sure, because, and just goes off on this weird tangent, and then there's a pause, and the guy just asks another question. No communication happened. It was like, I have a question, you just said a bunch of words, and I guess it's normal for me to say something else now. And so then he just asked another question, right? And so it's clear, like, what, and then normally when you overcome these, sorry, I could talk about this forever, but like when you overcome these obstacles with somebody, it's like, I don't have time, right? I'll just give you a simple one, because this is for everybody who's listening. Because right now you're probably not doing something because you're like, I'm too busy. I'll start when it's convenient, whatever. If you say that as the excuse for not doing something, then there's an assumption underlying that says that if I get busy again in the future, I will stop. And so, do you want the success that you want to be long-term? Yes. Then do you believe that you'll never be busy again for the rest of your life? No. So then you might as well start when you're busy so that you have the most support. Because if you learn how to do it when you're busy, when it gets quiet, you'll succeed even more. And when it gets busy again, you know how to do it because that's how you started. Right? Obstacle overcome. And then one step closer to making a decision. And so what happens is even in the obstacle process, when people are trying to sell stuff, people start from the outside in. So it's so easy to say, I don't have time. It's the easiest thing. I don't have time, I don't have money, right? And then once you peel, you show them how that's a fallacy. It's a logical fallacy. It's a distortion of reality. You peel that back. You get one layer closer to them. My wife won't let me. My partner won't let me. My kids. So you can feel like it's closer to you, right? And you peel that out, because how do you overcome that? Well, 5 years from now, if you didn't do the things that you wanted to do with your life, and you blamed your wife the whole time because she wouldn't let you do it, who are you gonna blame? her. Is that fair for your marriage, for your relationship? What do you think? No. So I think what you're doing is you're asking for permission instead of support. All right, and here's how you have that conversation with your wife. Right, so now we're sliding to the other side of the table and we're like, let's play this out. Right, it's not gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. Because if you keep repeating this habit, you're gonna end up 5 years from now, you're gonna look at your life the same way you're looking at it now and hating it. And who you're gonna blame? Now you're 5 years in, you still kind of like your wife. 5 years from now, you might not so much because you've had 10 more times you tried to do something, she said no. So it's today the day, right? And so we peel one layer, and then finally you're the person who's squirming there, right? Because you've forced them to confront reality, which is now they don't want to make the decision, right? Because they're like, I'm just gonna avoid it, I'm not sure, et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, hold on, like I've got you. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna get through this because you're just wading through this shit that people tell themselves, right? And so finally, when they're in the avoidance part, the biggest fear they have is making a mistake, right? They don't want to be seen as stupid. They don't want to lose status as a result of this decision. And so when we're dealing with that, it's making them understand that you don't need time to make a decision. You need information. And if the only source of the information you have is me, well, let's talk. What are the variables that you're going to use to make the decision? And a lot of people haven't even thought through that. It's like, well, if you don't know what they are, why don't I walk you through 4 that might be useful? Does this thing solve the problem the way you want it to be solved? Yes or no? Yes. Do you want to work with us? Yes or no? Yes. Do you know someone, do you have access to the amount of money to get started with this program? Yes or no? Yes. Great, let's do it. Right? And so you can walk someone through it and it's like, oh, wow. And you feel like just one of this magical journey of like all these things of why the reason they decided not to make decisions. But so many people are stuck in that same spot for why they're not taking action, whether it's selling a product or selling themselves. And I think that those frameworks of thinking through each of those problems, and I have a zillion of them for each of those things, I had to develop because I used those on myself. So I was like, I have to give myself a compelling reason to start doing stuff. I have to give myself a compelling reason to make decisions when I don't want to. I have to give myself a compelling reason that I can explain to a partner of why I made this decision, right, later. And so by doing that, it decreased the time between me getting information and acting, and then it sped up my decision loops in my life in general. And then obviously I applied that to sales, but I've applied it to everything. If you liked this video and found it helpful, please hit that like and subscribe button so you do not miss our next video. We would love to hear your opinions on this topic, so feel free to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Remember, to live a generational life, you need a generational mindset. See you in the next video.